This is not getting discussed on the mainstream media. Not only are they wrong legally, but the fact that they would do this is outrageous. This is an overreaction and really nonsense. How would you react if this was your son or your daughter? It's the offense of knowing the truth. It's the offense of having an alternate worldview. Saying God bless you to someone is not a violation of the law.
Hey, welcome to the broadcast, everyone. We're talking about Iran and Pastor Youcef Nadarkhani. What would you like to be telling the Iranian government right now, as it is very clear that a death execution warrant has been issued? We will give you some breaking news in just a moment. But if you were to talk to the Ayatollah, that's who's handling this, what would you tell him? Jordan, we do have some new developments on the case. Let's get right to them.
Sure. We were able to confirm as of yesterday evening in Iran, one of those close to Pastor Nadarkhani was able to get into the prison and to see him, that he was still alive. Now, that's yesterday in Iran, and now it's already evening in Iran as we're talking now live on radio. And the way these execution orders works, we do believe an execution order has been issued by the trial court. This has already been appealed all the way through the Supreme Court. This started back in October of 2009. We got directly engaged in September 2010 when it was likely because he was found guilty and sentenced to death. And we raised the voices. We raised the voices of the world. Now, again, we have been asked to do the same thing.
Well, what we've got right now, by the way, coming from multiple sources inside Iran, is that the execution warrant has been issued and it is back in the Golan province. So the Ayatollah is put it back to the local government. Now, he can still issue a commutation of that sentence, but we're past the situation of simply U.S. action, which is important, but we've got to get international action. Again, folks, I want to hear from you. How do you feel about what Iran's doing here? Is this saber-rattling? Are they using the Pastor Nadarkhani situation, accusing him of apostasy, death by hanging, because they want to make a point to the world of that the Iranians are in control of their own fate and that they're not afraid of any international pressure? We have a House resolution. It is H.R. 556. It has been drafted by it's got Republican and Democratic co-sponsors. Let me quickly go over those co-sponsors with you. On the Republican side is John Carter from Texas. Democratic side, Keith Ellison from Minnesota, by the way, first Muslim in Congress. He is a co-sponsor. Trent Franks from Arizona. Jim McGovern, Democrat from Massachusetts. Frank Wolf, Republican from Virginia. Our friend Representative Heath Shuler, Democrat from North Carolina. So bipartisan support here. But we now, Jordan, have to take it outside of just the U.S. realm and move this to the UN. We've got to get worldwide condemnation here in order to stop this. This is the only real avenue left.
Absolutely right. We need to hear from everyone now. Call 877-989-2255. We need to put pressures on our own members of Congress. You need to sign up for our Tweet for Yusef program. That's online at aclj.org. Hundreds of new people have signed on to that, which is a lot for a Twitter program, but thousands have called in, sharing the stories, sharing the updates. I was on CBN News. I encourage you to share that as well.
Jordan, talk to people about what the Tweet for Yusef is, so people that don't know, so very quickly here, what can they actually do?
Yep, every day we will send out a tweet automatically if you sign up at aclj.org, and a tweet will go out with an update so that all of the people that follow you, your friends, your family, colleagues, will see that, and they can continue to pray for Pastor Yusef, not forget about Pastor Yusef. That's initially why we launched the campaign, the Tweet for Yusef campaign. You donate a tweet. It's all absolutely free. You just go to aclj.org, and then you don't have to think about it again. It will automatically go out free. We all use it, Dad, on our own Twitter account so people can see it there. They've seen it already.
Yeah, we're reaching about 400,000 people a day through Twitter, so we want to encourage you to go to aclj.org. You can sign up for the tweet a day right there on the website. Everybody else, folks, we've got to get global pressure here. That's why we need you on this petition. Here's the number, 1-877-989-2255. This is a real threat. The execution order has been issued. 877-989-2255 or aclj.org. You can do that Twitter again at aclj.org or call us at 877-989-2255.
It is a matter of life or death. Pastor Youcef Nadarkhani has been illegally detained in Iran for nearly 2.5 years. Under Sharia law, he's now facing a death sentence because of his Christian faith and his refusal to embrace Islam. The ACLJ has launched a global effort to save the life of Pastor Youcef, working in this country and abroad to secure his freedom. Now, efforts are at a critical stage. A resolution has been introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives condemning Iran for violating human and religious rights and calling on Iran to release Pastor Youcef immediately. Stand with the ACLJ. Sign our petition urging members of Congress to add their names to this important resolution. It's time to turn up the pressure on Iran. Demand the immediate release of Pastor Youcef now. Call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255 or online, aclj.org.
Welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. I've said on our radio broadcast that the situation with Pastor Youcef Nadarkhani, if you're just joining us, he's the Christian pastor in Iran, has been in jail for apostasy. He's now facing a death sentence, death by hanging, because he refuses to recant his faith in Jesus. What's happened now, very important, is he's become a political pawn, if you will, in the process of Iran in their geopolitical efforts to delegitimize regimes around the world. Now, Iran is using this pastor as a pawn. I want to play for you a very special presentation we have that shows the existential nature of the threat from Iran, and then we'll have more on Pastor Yusef. We'll be back with this. Take a look at this very important video. It really lays out the threat from Iran.
Let's take it right to Iran. First of all, obviously you know better than anybody because of your work here as ambassador at the UN and just generally in your knowledge of this area. How significant is Iran as a threat right now?
Well, right now, Iran is the world's central banker to international terrorism. It funds Hamas, Hezbollah, terrorists in Afghanistan and Iraq and around the world. If you add to existing Iranian activities the capability to deliver nuclear weapons anywhere in the world, you make Iran a world power and a world threat. That's why it is legitimate for the United States, Israel, or others to take action now in self-defense to prevent Iran from continuing to violate its own treaty obligations and obtain nuclear weapons. It's not a desirable alternative, to be sure, but the preemptive use of military force in this case is actually far preferable to the world as it would be once Iran gets nuclear weapons.
I was going to follow up with that, because do you have any confidence whatsoever in the UN's capability or institutional willingness to take the kind of sanctions necessary to get Iran to stop?
There may well be a fourth sanctions resolution coming, but it will be just as toothless as the first three, and it will not do anything material to dissuade Iran from continuing its 20-year-long project to obtain nuclear weapons. The most likely outcome today, absent the use of military force by someone, is that Iran will have nuclear weapons, and very soon. I don't think Iran is subject to classical theories of deterrence. I think it worked through luck during the Cold War. It's not a system we should want to live under. And Iran has a very different calculus about the benefits of human life than even the Soviet Union did. But even if I were wrong about our capability to deter Iran, it doesn't stop there. If Iran gets nuclear weapons, Saudi Arabia will, Egypt will, Turkey, perhaps others. So in 5 to 10 years, you could have a multipolar nuclear Middle East with half a dozen countries with nuclear weapons. That is a formula for insecurity.
Insecurity, but also the ending of democracies like Israel as we know it?
Right. I think in a multipolar nuclear Middle East, you'd have many countries looking at the one next door saying, I wonder if I should strike first before he strikes me. And I would think at that point the use of nuclear weapons becomes almost inevitable.
Last question, and that is, can the world afford to wait?
I don't believe so, and I've felt this way for some time. I think it is a mistake to overestimate how much time we have in Iran. I don't believe in just-in-time non-proliferation, because if you miscalculate and Iran gets nuclear weapons, the entire balance of power has changed. We're in a very critical year this year.
Well, there you see the threat from Iran. We've got some phone calls, Jordan. Let's go right to them.
Willis calling in from North Carolina on line 4. Willis, welcome to JSECO Live.
Hi, Willis.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, I was just calling to say let's just not get in all this. I agree with you 100%, but at the same time, we know that this is what Christians are called to do, to stand up for their faith in the man Jesus Christ, and I hope that doesn't get lost in all this.
Well, it's certainly not getting lost in it, because this pastor has been told, he's been offered clemency to be released 4 different times. First, if he would recount his faith in Jesus, he refused to do it. They did that 2 or 3 times. Then they actually said, well, if you'll just acknowledge, you don't have to recount your Christianity, but you'll just have to acknowledge that Muhammad is a prophet. He refused to do that as well. So this man is doing just that. But look, the Apostle Paul utilized the legal system. He said, I'm a citizen of Rome. I am going to exert my rights. He's going to assert those rights. This man, Pastor Youcef Nadarkhani, is in Iran. They have signed on to various international documents guaranteeing religious freedom and liberty. Our job is he stands firm in his faith. Our job is to defend him utilizing the legal systems we have available. Jordan, that's exactly what we're doing. The fact of the matter is, folks, this pastor's staying strong. The question is, can the world outrage continue as a death warrant has been issued for him?
Yeah, I mean, unlike Peter in the Bible, he's been given the chance 3 times once to renounce his faith, and he refused to do so. Knew that could mean he would be put to death at that moment. Then was told, you don't have to renounce your Christian faith, Pastor Nadarkhani, but you do have to acknowledge to the public that Muhammad is a prophet. He refused to do that. But it doesn't ever say in the Bible that you don't try to help those who are persecuted. It says the opposite, and that's what we're called to do, and that's why us at the ACLJ, we of course encourage everyone to pray. But part 2 of that is do everything we can to make this the same kind of international story we did in the fall, which did prolong his life and did make Iran pause and think, is this something we want to deal with when it comes to our international affairs?
I want to post online the Pastor Yusef timeline that we put together so you have it. But on September 25th through 28th, he was convicted on the 25th, sentenced to death by hanging on the 25th of September. On the 26th, 27th, and 28th, the Iranian court demanded that Pastor Youcef Nadarkhani recant his faith or die each day. In other words, they gave him these over 3 days, to which he responded saying, will you recant your faith? His response was, I cannot. So he's been very firm. You don't have to worry about him being firm. The White House issued statement calling upon the Iranian authorities to release Pastor Nadarkhani. The State Department has as well. We've gone to the international community, including the UN Commissioner on Human Rights, the Special Rapporteur for Religious Speech and Religious Freedom. Jordan, all of that is in the works and has been working, but we are at and are quickly approaching the critical moment for this pastor's life right now.
Yeah, let me say it again. Execution order issued. Has not happened in the last 863 days. He was found guilty and sentenced to death, but that is different when they go to the court and then say, okay, here's the execution order, and then it's actually transferred in Iran. I've been looking into this, Dad. It's transferred in Iran to a Department of Executions, basically. It's somewhat like the U.S., where the court is over, the appeals are over, and they now just schedule the execution. The difference between the U.S. and Iran, they don't tell anybody. It's not a public execution. They're proud of those. They show on TV, we're executing a spy. Here, it could be that we learned that he was executed because his body got delivered to his attorney or family. And that's how grave of a situation this is. We have to remain strong. Pastor Yusef has remained strong. So you don't throw your hands up in the air. You never stop praying, and you don't stop fighting. And you got to do everything you can. We've got tools at aclj.org, the Tweet for Yusef program. We've also got a House resolution, bipartisan, and we need your support. 877-989-2255. Don't wake up tomorrow and say, I could have done that, but I just didn't make those 2 minutes at my time that today. 877-989-2255 or aclj.org. That's 877-989-2255.
Follow Jordan on Twitter, twitter.com/Jordan Sekulow, and keep updated at aclj.org. Back with more in just a moment.
It is a matter of life or death. Pastor Youcef Nadarkhani has been illegally detained in Iran for nearly 2.5 years. Under Sharia law, he's now facing a death sentence because of his Christian faith and his refusal to embrace Islam. The ACLJ has launched a global effort to save the life of Pastor Youcef, working in this country and abroad to secure his freedom. Now, efforts are at a critical stage. A resolution has been introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives condemning Iran for violating human human and religious rights and calling on Iran to release Pastor Yusef immediately. Stand with the ACLJ. Sign our petition urging members of Congress to add their names to this important resolution. It's time to turn up the pressure on Iran. Demand the immediate release of Pastor Yusef now. Call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255 or online, aclj.org.
Welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. This is a situation involving Pastor Youcef Nadarkhani that has been changing daily. During this broadcast, we've been showing you pictures of him and his family. Let me do this. Jordan was interviewed by CBN News just a few days ago to discuss this. Let me give you the sense of the urgency in Jordan's voice during this news broadcast from CBN News.
Jordan Sekulow of the American Center for Law and Justice is working with attorneys in Iran to help Pastor Yusef and joins us now with more. Jordan, we know you can't tell us everything, but how certain are you of this news?
I've been confirming up till now, Wendy, to make sure that before we went far and wide with this information. Yesterday, we announced on our website that we knew his life was in a kind of immediate, imminent danger that it had not been since we first started talking about it on CBN News when the trial court issued the original death penalty, the death sentence, but not an execution order. Of course, that can be appealed. And this time, we look at what's happened here. We look at the delays, we look at the timeline, and we got numerous confirmations from different people on the ground in Iran, those close to the case in Iran, and of course, those working on it around the world who said, we think this is the time not to just say that his life is in danger, but we do believe, and we have heard reports from around the world and from our own contacts in Iran that an execution order has actually been issued with death by hanging for Pastor Youcef Nadarkhani.
Now, do you know if Pastor Yusef is still alive right now?
We can't confirm that as of right now. We could on Friday. His attorney has a tough time, who we work with, his attorney, Mahmoud Dadka, he has a tough time getting to him. He has to get a court order to get to him. Some of his friends can, but as of today and this afternoon, and so the evening in Iran, we have not been able to confirm yet that he's alive since Friday. And usually that has not been easy hard over the past few months because, the court has really stalled, but now things have changed rapidly overnight.
Well, with so much public outrage, why would Iran take this action now? I mean, this is seriously bad PR for them, isn't it?
When we first started talking about it on CBN News, which was back in September, and that was after the court had issued the death sentence, and before even the appeal to the Supreme Court, the first time when they kind of stayed it and said, we're not overturning the death penalty, but we're going to send it back to say, was he actually a Muslim? We knew that the outcry had to be, they're about to execute him. They will if they can. So let's see if the world will pay attention. And the world did pay attention. It all started right here. And the world paid attention, and they went to the Ayatollah. But think about what's changed since September to today with the relationship with not just Iran and the United States or Israel, but Iran and the world, with their agents being captured in India, in the country of Georgia, in the United States, and the pointing weapons at our ships in the Persian Gulf. We know that Iran has got, because of the nuclear issue, has changed their whole position in a way that they're not as concerned about the world's reaction. In fact, it's almost like an act of defiance. But all hope is not gone.
Right. And, of course, we can pray. What are you suggesting that Christians around the world do right now to help?
Well, I want everybody to know first that we're working on this still. This is not just a mode where we're saying, well, the execution order's been issued and we're done now because this is over. The Ayatollah, the supreme leader, Khamenei, can stay in execution, just like our own president here in the United States can pardon someone. The Ayatollah, who is the head of the judiciary, Larijani, he can also stay the execution. There's not a full appellate route, it doesn't look like, but there are people, if the world speaks up, who can make a difference. And so what I'm asking every Christian to do is to spread the word. And if they see this story, get it to their friends and family. That's going to be key.
Yeah, we'll definitely get it on Facebook tonight and everybody repost
Absolutely.
it. And as long as he's still alive, Jordan, there is hope. We know that all things are possible with God, so we do pray for him right now. Jordan Sekulow, we appreciate you. Thanks for what you're doing, and thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Wendy.
Let me say this. We'll be taking more of your calls if you want to talk to us on air. But again, death sentence, all indications are that the execution order has been issued. We've had it verified at 3 different sources, including his attorney. We are now putting a lot of pressure on the global community, not simply the House, although we've got the House resolution, which we're thrilled. More co-sponsors we've added today to this. But we're also putting on global pressure. So, folks, if you want to stand up for this pastor who is standing up for his faith because they've asked him to recant, he said, I cannot. They asked him to just acknowledge that Muhammad is a prophet. He said, I cannot. They said, please return to the religion and faith of your fathers. He said, I cannot. So he is standing up for his faith. The question is, will we stand up for him? You go to aclj.org. You can sign up online. You can sign on for the Twitter program that we have, the Tweet for Yusef program at aclj.org, or sign up by calling us at 1-877-989-2255. This pastor's standing up. We need to stand up for him. 1-877-989-2255. Jordan, let's go right back to the phones.
Yeah, Tilly calling from California on line 3. Tilly, welcome to Jay Sekulow Live.
Hi, Tilly.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm just concerned because, it's all over the Internet, and I'm just wondering if Iran is not just using this as a publicity stunt. Also,
When you say a publicity stunt, what do you mean? They're using it for their political advantage. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, because they've been taunting us with other things as well. And
yes, but I do want to say this. They execute Christians all the time. So,
they execute lots of people every day. They right now,
Right.
Tilly, there's someone who's Canadian Iranian, went back from Canada to visit his family in Iran, had created a computer program. Of course, they pick him up in Iran because someone used it to upload indecent material, is what they said, and that could be anything there. And that was not him. They never accused him of doing it, but because he created the program, he just got sentenced to death and is now gone. Does not exist. Attorneys don't know where he is. They can't even get his documents. That's because his documents were transferred to the Department of Executions in Iran. So to say it's just political is not fair. Of course, they use this for their political gain. But honestly, on this issue, Tilly, they didn't want this being a story. They did not want this all over the Internet because this makes them look bad when it comes to business. Remember how they keep telling you it's a peaceful nuclear program, but we'll defend ourselves if you attack it because this is just about peace. They don't want stories about executing Christians by hanging who are 32 years old and have 2 young boys and a wife. They don't want those stories out. They got caught. They weren't able to call him a rapist. They weren't able to call him a drug trafficker. That's what the UN has, the list of what they usually say people committed the crimes that they do. And the UN even says at the Human Rights Council, they just make this up. We didn't let him get away with it because we had the actual court document,
which is unheard of, by the way, to have
Court
those.
of Iran, the Supreme Court in Qum, which is, by the way, where one of the nuclear programs is based. So, yes, Iran uses these to be defiant, but their honest truth is they wish you weren't talking about it at all.
They'd rather just execute these guys with no attention because they're not afraid to execute hundreds of them because they are doing that all the time. Listen to what Father Jonathan Mars said on Fox News. He's a Fox News contributor, sound number 9.
The real story here, I think, is a human one. And that is a man with a wife and children is willing to say, I'm going to be executed because I prefer being faithful to what I believe than giving in to this regime.
I mean, that is a strong statement, and he's had now 3 opportunities to recant and even just acknowledge Muhammad as a prophet. He's refused to do so, and he's facing this death sentence. Folks, again, if you want to speak out for him, it's a very easy way for you to do it at aclj.org. We've got this Twitter program. Jordan, explain again how this works because hundreds of people signed up for it yesterday, which is very helpful. What exactly will happen here?
Sure, you go to aclj.org. It's called Tweet for Yusef. It's right on the homepage. There's also a designated, you'll see a photo there that you can click on. It takes you right there. All you do, it's absolutely free. You sign up, Tweet for Yusef, and you're basically donating a tweet a day, but the donation is free. And it automatically goes out from your account, so you don't have to think about it again. And it's a tweet that we all send out, the official ACLJ, the Jay Sekulow account, the Jordan Sekulow account, Anna Sekulow account, Logan Sekulow account. Everybody's got it going. And it goes out, and it just has an update for all of your friends and family, anyone who follows you on Twitter. And let me tell you, it's reaching 180 countries and territories around the world. So 180 countries and territories, including the Palestinian territories, there are almost 400,000 people a day, and hundreds of people have signed on to the program the last couple of days. I encourage you. You ask, what can you do? I know you're praying. What else can you do? Well, you can first, you can call our toll-free number because we need more people on the House resolution. That's 877-989-2255. Sign up for the Tweet for Yusef program. And understand this, folks. Understand. And I want to make it clear to you. Don't wake up tomorrow and realize that you didn't do what you could do today. And we're giving you the tools that don't cost you anything to use, just like prayer doesn't cost you anything, but you have to take action. 877-989-2255. Let me make it clear again. Execution orders issued. Death by hanging. But there is always hope in a country like Iran, where the judicial system is not like ours, and others can step in to put things on hold. And that's what we're hoping to do right now. 877-989-2255. Call it now. Use the Tweet for Yusef program, and let's take another phone call. Paul from New York on line 5. Paul, welcome to Jay Sekulow Live.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
I know that he's not an American. However, I'm looking at this and saying, is there a possible way that they could send in the Navy SEALs to rescue this person?
Not likely, because he's one of thousands that have been held because of their faith. It's just this is the one that's getting the media attention. You also have to understand that our military is having to deal with the Iranians right now in the Straits of Hormuz, where actual gunships and armaments have been pointed at our ships as the fleet has gone through the Straits of Hormuz. It's a very tense situation over there. So military action for an individual, not likely here. This is diplomacy that we've got to deal with, and diplomacy is never an easy thing. And diplomacy at the United Nations is really not an easy thing. And I think we have to realize that if we're going to fight this out in the diplomatic realm, which is what we're doing here, it's going to take everybody working together. But, Jordan, let's go through very quickly what the options are for this pastor. Remember, they execute pastors and Christians every day in Iran. We've been able to keep this one in the news, to keep this pastor alive, try to bring international attention to it, and, frankly, international condemnation. But what is the next move here that are logistically going to happen?
The next move would be either, A, the bad news, the body's been delivered to the attorney and the family, and he's been executed. What we're hoping for and why we're working so hard and asking people to pray and asking people to sign up for Tweet for Yusef at aclj.org, which is reaching hundreds of thousands of people every day in countries around the world. Why are we asking? Because the second option, the second hope, is that they delay it again. This is what happened. September, October, they were ready to execute him, and they couldn't because of the international pressure and condemnation coming from both their people you wouldn't call their allies, but even some of their allies who said, please don't do this. Now we need that same thing to happen again, Dad. That is what we are hoping for. That's what we're praying for. And at the ACLJ and our teams around the world, that's what we're working on.
And Jordan, I will tell you this, is doing international press on this issue, not just domestically, but international press as well. On December 16, 2011, Iran delayed again Yusef's death sentence. On the 13th through 20th, they again pressured Pastor Yusef to recant his faith or die. He said, I cannot. On the 25th, we launched our Tweet for Yusef campaign. And on the 17th of February, the resolution was introduced in the House. Now we're going global with it, folks. ACLJ.org. To sign that petition or tweet for Yusef at ACLJ.org, or simply call right now. This is a life and death case. 877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or you can go to ACLJ.org. The time to act is now 877-989-2255.
It is a matter of life or death. Pastor Youcef Nadarkhani has been illegally detained in Iran for nearly 2.5 years. Under Sharia law, he's now facing a death sentence because of his Christian faith and his refusal to embrace Islam. The ACLJ has launched a global effort to save the life of Pastor Yusef, working in this country and abroad to secure his freedom. Now, efforts are at a critical stage. A resolution has been introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives condemning Iran for violating human and religious rights and calling on Iran to release Pastor Yusef immediately. Stand with the ACLJ. Sign our petition urging members of Congress to add their names to this important resolution. It's time to turn up the pressure on Iran. Demand the immediate release of Pastor Yusef now. Call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255 or online, aclj.org.